Hello, everyone, and welcome to WriterSpeak, dedicated to the written word and those who produce it. I am your host, Jeane Slone, and the author of 3 historical fictions, She Flew Bombers, She Built Ships During World War II, and the newly published She Was an American Spy During World War II. Today in our studio, I would like to welcome Sharon Cahn. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me here.
It's nice to meet you and see all your lovely treats that you brought. This is a handmade hat that Sharon has made herself.
It's one of my fascinators.
Yeah, and tell us what that means, a fascinator.
Well, when William and Kate got married in England, apparently everybody loved the way she wears her hats. And they started calling them fascinators, and I like style because I've always liked hats anyway. So I started making them.
Oh, yeah. And are they selling well for you?
Oh, they sell fairly slowly. Not everybody in America has got that much interest in British things.
Well, it's very beautiful. And you have handmade your, what do you call this?
This is a shrug. This is one of my shrugs, yes. It just covers the shoulders and down the back and kind of open a bit in the front. And I like this particular style to keep me warm and still have a line that looks nice.
Very lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, since we have this beautiful spinning wheel right here, okay, we're going to be talking about your book in the second part of our show. But hey, let's go right to the spinning wheel.
Okay, well, it all began with the spinning because when I learned how to spin in the 70s when we moved off onto the land. I'm actually a hippie who became a fashion designer. If you can think that is 180 degrees opposites, it's just the way it worked out.
It is.
And so I wanted to live off the land, so then of course I had to take spinning in order to raise my sheep and learn how to spin wool. And then somebody told me one day you can actually spin Angora from Angora rabbits. And I loved Angora fiber because Angora fiber is soft, it's 8 times warmer than wool, and it's just a wonderful fiber. Here, feel some of it. Right now I have it in a roving form, but feel some of that.
So this is right from a rabbit?
Yes, it's been taken off a rabbit.
Oh, it's like better than cotton, but almost cottony.
Yeah, it's softer.
Wow.
It's one of the world's softest fibers. And it's also very, very warm, so it doesn't take very much to warm you up. So I spin it, and this is how we spin. And it tells you in the book how we do this, and maybe you can see.
In your Pocket Bunny book is about spinning.
Yes, it is. It's all about spinning Angora for a present for my nephew. And I did have a real nephew. This is actually named for my nephew Jeffrey, who is in the book. He's called Jeremy because I didn't want to. He can handle it now, but at that age I didn't want to put him in a book and have him have publicity.
Look at how fast it goes.
Yeah.
Now you were saying that you call yourself Sharon Cahn of pluckings because you actually put the rabbit on your lap.
Yes. When I found out that you can pluck the Angora rabbit and they get a massage, it's really, really important to understand that every 8 to 12 weeks an Angora rabbit has been bred to raise a new coat of fur. Oh. So you have to take the old fur off so the new fur and the old fur don't get tangled. And if they do, then the rabbit starts licking it, trying to get it all off. And you've heard of get fur balls in their stomach? Well, rabbits do too, and it can kill them. Oh. The same as it does with cats. So you have to take it off. So this is a process. You don't raise Angora rabbits unless you're committed to taking care of them. So I started raising them. I started plucking them, and it's really a wonderful time that the rabbit and I have together, because the rabbit sits on my lap, and if you notice, my foot was going up and down when I spin, and there's kind of a gentle massage that way. And then when I pull the hair off, because it's released so easily, it feels like a massage for the rabbit. And they usually go to sleep on my lap. Oh. And I just loved that. And for many, many years, I showed this off at the fair and at schools, and it was just something wonderful that the rabbit and I had together, and I love to share it with children of all ages.
Do the Angora rabbits come in other colors?
Yes, they do. And the one in my book is called Chin Chin because it's a chinchilla colored, which means he has a variety of shades of silver, of gray.
Oh.
Yeah. But there are black ones and there are brown ones. And the light brown ones are called lilac. And they're just a nice assortment of colors. My favorite, however, is the fawn. And that's the one I love the best. And I spent many years actually developing what's called a satin Angora, which has a shine. Imagine this with a shine. And then they had a shine and they had the fawn color too. And it was just beautiful, and I made lots of things out of that particular color. Yeah.
So you have designed a line of clothing?
Yes. And so I named it Pluckings, after the rabbits, of course, because that was what we call taking the hair off and spinning it. And this particular one, I can show you one of my pieces. This is a cap scarf that I made that you can put on your head and then wrap this around you, very much like a Hollywood woman, and just wear that nice and warm. Feel how warm that is.
It just looks so soft.
Yeah, that's part of my winter line.
Oh,
Needless to say.
nice. So you have a winter line and
I have a fall winter line and a spring summer line. This is the spring, that's the winter. And
lovely.
Yeah.
And all the clothing that you handmade are for sale?
Yes.
And they're on your beautiful website.
They're on my website. They're also available in Sonoma County at the Galleria, and several places in Canada carry my line as well.
Well, tell us where the Galleria is located.
It's in Occidental, and if you've ever been there for dinners, I'm sure you'll know it's across the street from Negri's.
Oh.
Excuse me, the Union Hotel.
So if anybody is from Sonoma County and wants to see Sharon of Plucking's line of clothing, they can go to the Galleria.
Yes.
And Sharon's website will be listed in the credits, so you could go to her website also.
Yes. Great.
That's good to know about the line of clothing. So tell me, you are such a multifaceted, handicraft woman. What are the beginnings? How did that happen?
Well, my grandmother taught me to crochet when I was 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. And, but I never learned to knit until I was an adult, when I was pregnant with my first child. And I decided I'd make him a sweater. And
Pregnancy will do that to you.
Yes, yes. And so I did. And then I got excited about all the possibilities. And so I just kept on doing that. And then a few years later, we decided we were going to live off the land and move out to the country and have a ranch and raise animals. And that's where I got into raising the animals and the sheep and the rabbits and the pigs and the goats and the chickens and so forth. And I enjoyed that so much and I thought it was important that the children of this county see what it's like to live on a farm, because at that point everybody was being citified, I guess is how I called it. And so I opened up my ranch for children to come out and visit. And so that when they got there, they would get to milk the goat. I chose the goats because the cows are so big, and goats are much more a comfortable size for the children to work with. So they would come and they would milk the goats, and then they'd slop the pigs. Now that means they'd have to feed the pigs, but it was always sloppy, so they loved doing that. And then collecting the eggs from underneath the chickens on the chicken part of the farm, and they just had a good time. And I always finished up with a rabbit on my lap, and I spun and plucked the rabbit.
Oh.
And one day along the line, I decided I would make one for my nephew, and then I decided, well, why don't I make a pocket bunny not only for my nephew, but for the kids, and show them how to demonstrate how to do it. And then I had the book available too. And that was something that they could take back as a souvenir. And it was really neat. And I've even gotten letters back from the teachers when they would come. It got to be after 20 years or so, they came, there was something important that they do, and I still meet people who says, I brought my grandkids to see you. Or people who said, I remember being there, who have grown up since. But It was important to me. And I've never forgotten this one incident when these were inner city kids coming up from Marin County. And they arrived, and this one girl walked out and she said, "Oh my, what a big rat," when she saw my goat. She had no idea. That was her conception of what animals were. She only had seen rats.
Oh.
And that blew me away. So I felt it was important that I keep doing what I was doing, and I did it for about 20, 25 years. Yeah.
And it was called Buzzard's
Roost Ranch. Yeah, we did hands-on farm tours.
In Occidental.
Yes,
Yeah.
I even was written up in Bay Area back roads.
Oh.
At one point in time, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, before we talk about your lovely book, I also wanted to know about your quilting.
Yes, the last 4 or 5 years I have taken on quilting as well. I like doing quilting, and I like to see what the texture ends up being. And so didn't just join regular quilts with scraps and doing squares and so forth. I've decided I was going to do quilting with texture. So I joined a branch of the Santa Rosa Quilt Guild, which I enjoy doing. And I joined the Pointless Sisters because we do the art quilts. Oh. And right now we have a show in Occidental at Center for the Arts called Not Your Grandmother's Quilt.
Oh.
And I have a quilt there. Of course, I happen to be the lucky one that my quilt was bought before I'd ever even got set up. So it's there, but so we'll see it while you can, because at the end of April it will be gone.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah, that was very exciting for me because it was my first quilt that had been sold.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you ever teach quilting?
Not really. I don't consider myself that much an expert, and most people like to learn the traditional ways.
Uh-huh.
So, but I do teach felting, and I teach spinning, and I teach all kinds of interesting things like discharge and dyes and shibori work and resist.
So you have classes that you teach. I saw it says on your website.
Yeah.
So one of the classes is felting.
Yes.
And you need to explain what that means. We all don't know what that means.
Well, felting is and the type of felting that I teach is called nuno felting, or laminated felting, where you felt the wool into the silk. Now, you try to get something like a very open weave silk that you lay down, and then you work the wool into it. And it stiffens it, but at the same time, when the wool shrinks, the silk will ruffle around it. So you're planning where you want to have ruffles and where you don't, and it's I just love that particular form of working with things. I'm having lots of fun with it.
And is something done with the felt then?
Oh yes, I've even felted pictures. So I have a couple of pieces that I'm going to be putting in very soon that I have framed, and I'm entering them into art shows where it's actually a picture. The background has been painted, but then I put the felt pieces on it to give the texture. Mm. And so I use it that way, but I felt lots of things that we wear. And if you look on my website, you'll see several felted pieces that I have felted, and there will be more because I just came across another way of doing it. And come spring, come next couple of weeks, I hope I will get a chance to get some of these made. Mm-hmm. And
so that's one class, is the felting.
Yes.
Tell me another class that you teach.
Well, there's always people who want to learn how to spin. And
yeah,
I do teach
the spinning.
That. And I'm very easy about whatever it is because I consider myself a fiber artist. And there's a variety of techniques that you can learn with working with fiber art. So I say, if you get a couple people together and you've got 3 hours of my time, and you pay me for my time, and I'll teach you whatever it is you want to learn. If it's felting, that's great. I know how to do that great. If it's felting with a little bit of dyeing in the process, we can do that too. If you want to do some resist shibori work, I can show you how to do that too. It just, however you want to take it.
Can you explain what that is?
The shibori work. Shibori is a Japanese word where it talks about, most people see it as pleated work, where you have everything pleated, and where it's pleated, it resists and the dye doesn't come in. And so that you have a variety of, old-fashioned tie-dye like this is a type of shibori work. We just never called it that. But now it can be called resist, it can be called shibori. There's all kinds of way of doing. You can do it with clamps, you can do it with it's just the way that you work with it, and there's all kinds of ways of working with it, and I find that fascinating too. So my students just say, hey, we want to do that, do it this way. And they teach me as well. So.
And again, your classes are listed on your website,
Yes.
which is on the credits,
Yes.
so the audience
Yeah.
will be able to see that if anybody would like to learn how to do felting or spinning.
Or anything working with fiber. I really tell my students, come get a bunch of girls together, or guys, and just contact me. We'll set up a time and we'll just do whatever it is we want to do and come up with something. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, wonderful benefit to the community.
Yeah. Well, it's payback. It's giving back. I'm reached the age where it's time to give back. I've learned a lot over the 35, 40 years that I've worked with fibers. And it's time for me to teach it and pass it on. Mm-hmm. And I like people who to be out of the box, creative, and if they aren't, they will be by the time they leave my class.
To learn how to be out of the box.
Yeah.
So, have you had fashion shows?
Lots.
Oh.
I started in the 90s. I was just talking to a friend of mine. By the way, my hats can be found at Portobello in Santa Rosa as well. I forgot to mention that. And the gal, Amy, who is one of the owners of Portobello, was started out doing fashion shows with me. She's always done hats. That's always been her thing.
And
so
where
now she
is
has a hat shop.
Portobello located?
It's on 4th and D Street, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, So I started doing fashion shows with her. I've done shows in New York City. I've done shows in Canada. I've done shows in Los Angeles. My next one coming up will be in Fairfield. It's called the Rancho Solano Spring Fling Boutique, and it's April the 6th from 10 to 5, and that's at the Rancho Solano Golf Course. That's my next one.
And it's going to be a fashion show of your clothing.
It's not a fashion show. It's a bunch of artisans all getting together.
Oh,
everything there is handcrafted, and I'm just one of the vendors. But it's a wonderful place. But there's all kinds of neat stuff. We quite often get things from each other too, because we all appreciate the work that we've all done.
Mm-hmm. Must be fun for you to go to. You had so many events listed. And you said that you live in Canada for 6 months every year?
Yeah, I like to go up to Canada in the summer. We have a summer home up there. And I usually do shows at the Arts Wells in July. And then there's also our little town where I live, because I'm off the grid, of course, even further out. And little town of Horsefly always has a Arts on the Fly. Oh. And I always participate in that show as well, as having I'm a vendor there as well.
What part of Canada?
It's British Columbia.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm halfway to the Yukon.
Mm-hmm.
Off the grid, there's no electricity, no telephone, which is why I get work done. And
the spinning wheel works there.
But we do have Skype.
Oh, yeah.
Wi-Fi is there, and so we can still talk to our kids. And going into town is about a 45-minute thing to do, and that's the little town of 2 blocks long. That's Horsefly. Or I can go 2 hours into the big town of Williams Lake, which is on the main highway, 97.
Horsefly is such a cute name.
It is.
Well, this is a good time for us to talk about your book.
Yes.
Before you tell the story and how it, let's talk about the crafting of the book, which I was just so amazed that you made the actual book itself.
These books are actually made by me, and even the cover is made, and so is the bunny. And I took a class, and this was sponsored by the Sonoma County Board of Education at one point in time, somewhere in the 80s, 90s, late 80s, first part of the 90s. And this lady, Betty Doty, I believe her name was how to publish your own books. And she showed us how to make them. It was a 2-hour class.
And what year was that?
I believe it was 88 or 89.
Uh-huh.
And so she told us how to make the book. And basically it's just cardboard and spine. But knowing how to sew the sections together, that was the important part, because these are actually sewn together.
And they're hand sewn?
Yes.
Oh.
So the sections that are attached to the spine are hand sewn. So, and then of course I took it a step further when I made a little case for it, and then the bunny to go with it, because it just seemed to call for it.
So is it regular paper?
Yes, it's regular paper.
Uh-huh.
It's printed out at Sprint.
Oh. Uh-huh.
You can get 4 pages on a page.
And then you cut the pages to the right size.
They cut them to the right size. It's all
Oh,
geared.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. This is my second publishing. I had already sold 1,000 books over the years.
Oh, is that
And
amazing?
This is my second round of having the writing done. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
It's so adorable.
Oh.
Well, let's talk
why don't
about.
you hold the bunny?
Yes, I would love to. Well, let's talk about the bunny a little bit.
Yeah.
What is the bunny made out of?
Angora.
Angora.
Straight Angora, 100% from the rabbit.
And this is a gray one.
Yes, that's one that looks like Chin Chin, which is the one who's in the story.
Oh, I bet children love to feel this bunny.
They do, they do.
And they can go.
And they do. But would you like me to read part of it?
Well, let's finish talking about the book itself.
Okay.
And build up some suspense. So the book has a cover.
Yes.
You'd
This is
call
the case.
Or a pocket even.
Yes, and well, it has a pocket on it.
It
for the bunny
and
to go.
another 2 pockets, really.
Yes, yeah. The book fits into one, and the bunny fits into the other.
Here's the book. Here's the bunny.
And here's the cover.
And here's one pocket, and it has a nice little loop.
Oh, that's so you can carry it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or hang it up even.
Mm-hmm.
And then
It fits
the
nicely in
book
the back
goes
of the
in
car.
the case.
Yeah.
We'll demonstrate. dress the book. And then the bunny goes in this beautiful heart pocket. And it peeks out.
Yes.
And the bunny, in case everybody can't see, has a nice bow and eyes, nose, and a smile.
Of course, he's happy.
Yeah, yeah. So let's hear a little bit about the book,
Okay.
the story. I mean, the book in itself is interesting.
Well, like I said, I made this book for my nephew.
And how old was he?
He was 7 or 8 at the time.
Uh-huh.
And he'd come out to the ranch, and he was the one that loved the animals. So he'd come out to the ranch, and I knew that he had fun with my rabbits. So I said, well, it's his birthday coming up, and that's what the story is all about, making a pocket bunny for him for his birthday.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
And you thought of doing that?
Well, I actually did it, and then I said, well, why don't I write a story about this, because then the other kids can see this process. And I was doing 2 things at once, really, teaching kids about Angora rabbits, and at the same time giving them a story and something to love at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so nice.
So, and then I got an illustrator. My illustrator is Nancy Hunchins, and she did pen and ink drawings. Let me get to one of these. Very nice ones.
And is she somebody local?
She was, yes, she was someone very local, just around the corner from me, and unfortunately she's passed on.
Oh.
Cancer got her.
Oh.
But she was a lovely, lovely woman. So I just gave her some pictures, and she went with it and did pen and ink drawings.
Oh, nice.
That I treasure. Yeah.
Well, this is such a tribute to her. Now
Yes.
she is alive.
Yes. She continues on. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyway, the story begins where I'm making the bunny from the pocket bunny for my nephew, and it shows me going down to the barn, and then it talks about going into the rabbitry, picking out the rabbit that he likes. This is his friend Chin Chin. Oh. And it shows you, it tells you how to hold the rabbit so that he's concerned. So if you have to take the picture, it was taken back here, because they like to have their head sticking out from under your arm, and then they feel very secure when you hold them this way.
About how much do they weigh usually?
Oh, about 7-8 pounds. Yeah, the rest of it looks like they're bigger because they have all this hair, but there's about 3 inches of hair all the way around this body.
I have seen them, and I thought they weighed more.
Yeah, and then it shows me actually plucking the hair and spinning it into Angora.
The whole process.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a picture of me at the wheel, and it just tells the whole story. And at the end, I give it to Jeremy. I show up with the pocket bunny in my pocket.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, of course, I get a hug. And then I go off, and he has the pocket bunny with him, and he's talking about it to it and having a good time. So that's basically what the story is about. And I know that lots of kids have them and have treasured them. And the interesting thing is, Jeffrey, instead of Jeremy, is now married and has a child of his own, and she's 5. And guess what she's going to get for Christmas this year?
Oh.
And then she will be told that the boy in this story is actually her dad.
Lucky her.
So I think that's rather special. I'm looking forward to giving her that for her Christmas present.
That is so sweet.
The other nieces and nephews are going to get it too at the same time, but she's the only one who's really her father who's in the story.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's really wonderful.
Great.
So your book is available through your website?
You can get it through my website. The Galleria also carries it in the little Mad Hatter store they have next door, which is children's toys.
And so what is the name of the store?
It's called the Mad Hatter. It's right next door to the Galleria. The same lady, Gina, owns them both and takes care of them both. And she has these for sale as well as, and she has the bunnies separately as well.
And that's in Occidental?
In Occidental,
yeah.
Yes.
And we'll put that on the credits in case anybody wants to go there.
Right, yeah.
And is it available through your website also?
Yes, it's available through my website as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be available in the local shops?
Yes. Why don't you tell me the list of shops? Because you were really enthusiastic about all my stories.
The book will be available in local shops in Sonoma County, and the lists of the shops are in the Sonoma County Gazette, where it says, buy local authors' books here. Right. So that's exciting that anybody local can go and buy your book, but if somebody is watching this program and they're from far away, they could get it directly from your website.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
I think it's really a wonderful gift for a child because it's in a pocket. It can be hung up even, you know.
Yeah.
Or the bunny can be taken out of the heart pocket and slept with. And the book can be read to the child before they go to sleep and snuggle up with the bunny.
Mm-hmm. It's very nice. Well, that's what I wanted, something that the child can love and at the same time know it was made with love. That's the important part.
It's very adorable.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was very wonderful having you on our show and to learn all about your crafts. Thank you very much for sharing all your crafts with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this.
I would like to thank our sponsor, the Sonoma County Gazette. And this program, WriterSpeak, is produced at C Media Lab in Santa Rosa. Please join us next time for another exciting episode of WriterSpeak with a local author.